Welcome to 5460, the Joe West Podcast. Featuring former Major League Baseball umpire Joe West. For 6 decades, no one has seen more baseball than Joe West. And now he shares those stories with you every week right here on the Podcast Heat Network.
Joe West is asking the Reds to leave the field. I guess maybe as a form of security.
Well, Joe West is not going back behind the catcher. So what is he doing? He wants to throw him out or what?
He's not going to back away from confrontation. It's just not in his makeup.
Which guy are we talking about backing away?
Well, come to think of it, it's both guys.
And they're warning the Atlanta dugout now. A helmet came flying out. Bobby Cox, I don't think threw the helmet. One of his players did, but Bobby's jawing back at Joe West. But somebody's been tossed, and here comes Cox. It was Bobby Cox who threw the helmet out there.
Off the umpire, and that's a foul ball. Joe West gets drilled, and he appears none the worse for it. He's a strong man.
Nice. Now Joe's going to give him some argument because Mark's saying, "Why do you do?" Joe, just get over there and umpire, will you? Yeah. Just get over there and umpire. No. That's all.
It's 5460, the Joe West Podcast. Here's Joe West and your host, Mike Claiborne.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of 5460, the Joe West Podcast. I'm Mike Claiborne, and Joe West is alongside, and we have a special guest today. We're looking forward to talking to the Hall of Famer. He's won every award there is as far as TV and basketball is concerned, and we're welcoming Charles Barkley. Charles, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's great to have you with us.
Well, you know what? It's an honor. Hey, me and Cowboy have been friends a long time. When he called to do the podcast, I'm like, hell yeah, I'll be happy to do it. But Mike, in fairness, as everybody likes to remind me, I haven't won a championship, so I feel glad you left that out.
Well, you know what? There's plenty of things in the world that you can probably be proud of. Not having a championship, you know what? That's cool. You know, there's more guys that don't have it than do have it. So you're in a majority.
Hey, hey, let me tell you something. I can count on one hand the people I would trade my life with. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't count anybody that wouldn't trade their life for yours. I mean, everybody in the world wants to be you, you know, and you forget that you were one of the greatest basketball players that ever lived, and you can live up to that. That even though I did send you that list of players at one time, and you ridiculed me about it, but that I'll tell Mike about that in just a minute. But you forget Ted Williams never won a championship either. You forget Dale Murphy never won a championship either. And you know what? There's 400 baseball umpires never won a championship, but they tried to be as good as they could be, and that's what you did. So you need to be proud of everything you've accomplished in your life. And I need to tell all of our audience what you've done every year for the last, I want to say 10, 12 years. When you go down to Andy Bean's tournament there in Lakeland and you give a lecture to those kids. So I want you to expound on that so that everybody can know that Sir Charles is a lot bigger man than everybody thinks you are, because I'm proud of what you do over there with them. So I'd like for you to tell that story.
Well, it's pretty cool, Cowboy. I got Andy Bean and Brad Bryant. So the owner of Publix, Barney Barnett, is a great friend of mine, and those guys are too. So they do a special needs golf tournament down in Lakeland, Florida every year. And it's pretty amazing and special. It's just unbelievable because it's really interesting because for some reason, autistic, I don't even know how to explain the kids, they special needs. They can play golf and they love it. And it's the only sport they can play for some reason. And I've done it like 12, 13 years. When I originally decided to do the tournament, I said, man, I'm doing this for 1 year and that's it. But after I did it the first year, Cowboy, I was like, damn, the joy these kids get out of hitting that little stupid ball and the joy their parents get. I was like, I'm never going to miss this. It's one of the coolest events that I put on my schedule. I look forward to it every year. But to see the love and joy these kids get and their parents seeing these special kids being just happy and excited to hit a stupid little ball gives them so much joy. And then I always leave there saying, I'm not going to complain about my damn cable being out. Hey, I'm not going to complain, about something going on at the crib. I'm like, these kids get so much joy and their parents give me so much joy. And I was like, wow, man. And it's just amazing. So shout out to Publix in Lakeland, Florida. The guy who started Publix, a guy named George Jenkins. And I actually shout out to Barney. He just lost his wife, Carol Jenkins, whose father started Publix. And man, Joe, thanks for giving me some love, man. But those kids, they make it worthwhile.
Well, I can tell that it's a special place in your heart. And Larry Ziegler sometimes goes over there and sees you over there, and he raves about how good you are with those kids. He just says, I can't believe this is the same guy that said he didn't want to be a role model.
Well, first of all, you tell Z, first of all, he is the worst joke teller in history. You talk about bad dad jokes. He is the king of bad dad jokes. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever been around, but he tells these awful dad jokes that, you know how sometimes you laugh at jokes because they're so bad? That's what Z's jokes are. We laugh at them because they're really, really bad.
So what you said, is he that kind of guy who tells a joke where he can't give you the punchline and you can nod your head waiting for it?
No, he's laughing before he gives you the punchline. And then you say like, Z, that was not even funny, but you laughed because it was so corny. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, you and Joe have known each other for a long time. Were you a baseball fan at any point? We know you're a golfer. We know you like to fish. We've seen your attempt at hockey. What about baseball? And how did this relationship come about?
Well, so growing up in a small town in Alabama, my grandfather, Simon Barkley, was the biggest Atlanta Braves fan in the world. Back when they were on TBS every single day, I think we buried my grandfather in a Braves hat. My grandfather, every single day I went to visit him, he was sitting there with a Braves hat on. So I've been an Atlanta Braves fan. I'm really more of a Phillies fan now. But I've always had a house in Philly since 1984. But my grandfather got me in my love of baseball. I think, he mentioned Dale Murphy. I just played golf with Dale Murphy actually about 3 weeks ago. Me, him, and Bo and John Data played. We have a major event at my golf course in Alabama. So me and Bo and Dale played about a month ago. And it's always great to see Dale. But growing up, I think my favorite baseball players was not, what was it wasn't Bobby Cox was the manager, Bob Horner. I think Bob Horner was I'll get by him. I was going to say Bob Horner. I'm going to say Bobby Cox for a second. But Bob Horner was my favorite player growing up. So that's how long I've been into baseball. And I go to probably 5 to 7 Phillies games during the summer. Actually spent a couple nights with the Yankees down in Tampa when I was down for game 3 and 4 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I really love me some hockey. But having to be staying at the same hotel as the Yankees and caught up with Rizzo and Coach Booney, who I've known for, because I've been going to Cubs games. I go to about 2 or 3 Cubs games a year for the last 20-some years. I just happened to bump into Rizzo and Booney at the hotel. I knew they were in town playing the Rays, but I was in town to support my boy John Cooper, who's the coach of the Lightning. But man, baseball's always been special to me. And listen, in fairness, I'm addicted to sports. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm gonna watch baseball, football, basketball, hockey. I love sports because it takes us away from reality. And listen, the one thing the world needs now is way more or less of reality. Hey, this world we're living in right now, man, it's a crazy world, and if it wasn't for sports, I think we need more sports right now because we have to sit back and deal with reality. It's not pretty right now.
But you know, in everything that you said, you made one statement one time. It was a cute statement. It said, "You're not controversial. You just bring attention to it when you bring it up." You said controversy was already there before I started, and I thought that was one of your better lines. You've had some good lines over the years. Um, the deal about not being a role model when you said it. I remember seeing Harry Callis and you both right after you said that. But you are a role model, and you've always been a good role model that I can tell. And I mean, when we approached you at that Philadelphia Sports Writers dinner, uh, which is really funny because you and I being invited to the same sports writers dinner is a rarity.
Hey, they know there's a chance that we can get in trouble and bring even more publicity to the so Joe, I tell you the story about the role model commercial. So, athletes do an amazing job in the community, and most people don't know that. These guys, they're amazing, going back forever. So, but I noticed something um, in the mid '80s. So, and unfortunately, we have too many segregated schools on different parts of town. But I noticed something very disturbing. So when I would go speak at the white schools, I asked these kids, "Well, what do y'all? How many of y'all want to play sports?" But only like 10% raised their hand. And I said, "What do you want to do?" "I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." Because, I always tell people, hey, playing pro sports is like hitting the lottery. But what scared me when I was going to these predominantly black schools, and when I would say, "Well, how many of your kids want to play pro sports?" It was pretty much like 95 to 100% raised your hand. And I just kind of kept that little mental note in my head for X amount of years. And then I realized, like, man, these black kids only think they can play sports and be entertainers. And I said, no, y'all can be doctors and lawyers and engineers and teachers, firemen, policemen, things like that. So I went to Nike and they said, "You're crazy as hell." And I said, "No." I says, "I know it's going to be controversial, but what it's going to do is going to start a debate. It's going to start a debate." And that's all you want to do. When you start, like, we talk about controversy. I'm very selective on what controversies that I want to get involved in because I always tell people, if you cry wolf all the time, people are going to, they just get sick of hearing you. So I said, I want these young black kids to know they can be doctors, lawyers, teachers, firemen, policemen, things like that. So Nike told me I was crazy as hell. They said, "You're going to get killed." I says, "I'm a pretty big boy. Hey, I'm not offended." I said, "First of all, I play in Philadelphia." I said, "There's nothing going to offend me that somebody says to me." So Nike says, "If you got the stones to do it, we'll make the commercial." And I did it. And obviously all hell broke loose. But I will tell you this, about a year later, Nike came back to me and says, "We owe you an apology." I said, "What for?" They says, "Everybody loved the commercial." They said 95% of the letters that we got thought it was a great message. And, me and my friends used to joke around. I'm probably the only person in the history of civilization that told kids to listen to their parents and got blasted by the media, you know? And so I knew I was doing something right. When the media goes all against you, you know you're doing something right.
That's true.
But listen, I tell people this all the time. Man, I've had the most amazing life. I wish every kid out there could play a pro sport. It's the greatest job in the world. But 1% gonna play pro sports. And I wish everybody could do it, but I want these young black kids like, "No, man, I wish you could play in the NBA. But your mom and dad are 5'7". You're not gonna play in the NBA. But you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, you can be a teacher, fireman, policeman. There are a lot of great opportunities out there. But I don't want all these young black kids growing up thinking like, my only avenue of being successful is dribbling a stupid basketball or hitting a little round white ball or throwing a football. I want them to know first of all, you got a much better chance of being a doctor and lawyer you do playing in the NBA. I mean, it's only 400 some players in the NBA. It's like hitting the lottery.
You know what, Charles? It's funny. It's funny you bring this up because Arthur Ashe, the great tennis player, basically said the same thing like 30 years before you, and here we are still talking about that same thing. I guess nobody's listening. I guess nobody's listening because they still have the aspirations to want to be you or somebody else that's a professional athlete, and there's just so many other opportunities out there.
Well, listen, hey, trust me, if I could still play, I see some of these damn numbers these dudes are throwing around right now. Like, hey, do I have anything left in this body where I can go out there and get like one rebound? You know, you see like Russell Westbrook says he's gonna opt in for $47 million. I damn sure hope so. Ain't nobody said I don't want $47 million. And Kyrie Irving, he opted in for $37 million. I was like, where is he gonna make $37 million for dribbling a stupid basketball? So if I'm a young kid sitting at home, I see those numbers. And God bless these young kids. I'm not one of those old get off my lawn guys. I made more money than Dr. J and Moses and all those guys. They were clearly greater players than me. It is what it is at times. So I understand these kids see these crazy numbers, but it's unrealistic. And you know, and you talk about a hero, Arthur Ashe. I can't imagine what it was like being a black man in his 50s and 60s and 70s. You know, I tell people, I'm from Alabama. I've experienced subtle racism, but to be a greater man as Arthur Ashe and the thing those older black Jackie Robinson, Muhammad, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, all the stuff those guys had to go through. I stand on Kareem. I don't forget him. I stand on their shoulders, man. I'm so lucky and blessed in my life. And one of the things I try to do, Mike, is I try to go help kids and be a positive guy because, one of the things I try to do is, I started a few years ago. My goal is to give $1 million a year away to charity. Because, we live in a world, people always talk about racism, and racism exists, always has, always will. And that's unfortunate. But I don't get in the fray. I say, hey, I'm not going to waste all my time complaining and bitching about racism. I know it's here. I know it exists, but I'm going to always try to go forward. So I started a few years ago, and I started in my high school. I said, I'm going to give $1 million a year away. So I started a few years ago. I started at my high school. So I said, I want every kid here, if y'all want to go to college, I'm going to help you. So I started there first, because I always started home. Then I went to Auburn. I said, hey, I'm going to give y'all a few $1 million, and y'all going to help these kids. We're going to go into neighborhoods, underprivileged, and things like that. So then the next year I did the Wounded Warriors, because as great a country we are, our government sucks when it comes to helping veterans. So I've been spending time with these Wounded Warriors for about 10 years now. If somebody go to war, I admire them and respect them. And if they get a life debilitating injury, they should get we should be invent new stuff to fix them so they don't ever have to worry. And then I went to a couple of inner city schools in Alabama. But what I've done for the last 5 years, I've picked out 5 historically black colleges and given each one of them $1 million. I started out with Morehouse and Clark in Atlanta. And then I went back home to Alabama. I did Tuskegee, Alabama A&M, and Miles. So for me, I really want to just keep trying to make a difference. When, we talk about the role model thing, I say, hey, when I give y'all this money, when I come spend time with you guys, we ain't never going to talk about basketball, football, or baseball. I want y'all to say, because like I say, I don't know what y'all can do in life, but we're not going to try to put y'all in a mold where y'all, because I say, hey, none of this money go to the sports programs. This is all academic scholarships and things like that. And so, hey, I'm just trying to do my little piece. That's all you can do because, man, I've been so lucky and blessed. I just turned 59. Hey, Cowboy, how about this? I'm a damn grandpa. Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
I just had my baby girl. I got one daughter who's the most important thing in my life. and she just gave me my little grandson, little Henry. And man, I'm on the back nine of life. I just turned 59, and I'm on the back nine. I'm just trying to enjoy myself, and try to help bring as many people along on this journey with me as possible.
Hey, Charles, you mentioned you've had a good life and you've had a lot of
Great
fun.
life, not a good, great life, not a good one.
Great life, and you still having fun. So, with all your basketball accomplishments, what athlete would you like to trade places with? Would it be like a Justin Thomas or a Wayne Gretzky or some other athlete that you watch? Would you like to trade their careers for yours?
Well, I don't want to trade with Justin Thomas because I don't want to be short. And Justin is a good friend of mine, so I hope he gets a snippet of this podcast. It wouldn't be anybody in football because I played football one day and I was like, this is the stupidest shit ever. Running to somebody for 2 hours straight. I used to joke with the coach at my high school. I played one day and I can't, he put me on, we used to joke, he put me on the defensive line. But the only time you really work in football is you're on the offensive line or defensive line. You sit somebody every play. And I went out there for 2 hours, just ran to this other dude for 2 hours straight. And I get back in the locker room. I'm totally exhausted. And I got my head down. Every part of my body is hurting. And the coach says to me, I'll see you tomorrow. I said, I'm not doing this shit tomorrow. and I said, Coach, no disrespect. I walked up to him afterwards. I said, Coach, this ain't for me. So my football expertise, my experiment lasted one day. So it definitely wouldn't be anybody in football. Baseball, I don't want to stand out in the hot sun every day, 6, 7 days a week. It would probably be golf. I love playing golf. It's fun. I love being out there walking around those big old trees. There's nobody around bugging you. So, Ernie Els is a guy I know vaguely who I admire and respect. Tiger is the greatest golfer ever. So it'd probably be somebody in golf. I mean, you can work 30 weeks a year. If you're really great at it, you can do it. Because really, it's the only thing you can do now. You can't play any other sport the last 2 times I touched a basketball, I blew out my knee. I learned a lesson. Old people should not try to play basketball. So it would probably be for real golf. It's so funny. One thing on my bucket list, I got a chance last summer to play golf with Gary Player. And he had heard through the grapevine that I was like, I want to play him. So he was in Philadelphia and the guy called me and said, hey, Gary Player is here. He want to talk to you. I says, hey, Mr. Player, how you doing? He says, Charles Barkley, hey, you want to meet me and play golf with me? I said, yes, sir. It'd be an honor and a privilege. He said, well, you want to play tomorrow? I said, hell yeah, I want to play tomorrow. I called my secretary. I said, if I got anything on the schedule tomorrow, you cancel it right away because I'm playing golf with Gary Player. But Mike, it was so cool. And like on the third hole, he says like, I was talking to Nelson Mandela one day and he kept going. I said, oh man, hold up, man. You just can't start a conversation and say, I was talking to Nelson Mandela one day. And he said, Charles, it was one of the greatest honors of my life. Because, I fought apartheid. He says, when I was taking black golfers to South Africa, I had to ask for permission. He says, I was like, what? He says, I'd always have to ask for permission. And, he said it was terrifying and scary. And he said, then when President Mandela came and I got the chance to know him, and I was like, number one, I admire him for being Gary Player. But then he talked to like, man, how many people actually met President Mandela? That would be one of the, obviously he's resting in peace. But to meet somebody on that level who accomplished what he accomplished, And let me tell you something. If I go to prison for the night, I'm pissed off like for the next 2 months. You have to go for a lot of years and you come out and you are at peace and only want to make the world a better place. You're a hero, man. You're a hero. And for this man to go in prison all those years and come out, become president, and say, no, we're going to stop this stuff. We're going to unite with the white people, make this the best country in the world. I was like, man, you know this dude. And I said, no, you got to tell me more about President Mandela. You just can't say I was hanging with President Mandela one day. And, hey, I mean, I want to know more about that. I mean, because, we meet very few people who you can say who are legitimate heroes. There's guys who I met who are great at sports. There's great actors I met, and it was cool to meet them. But when I'm around Bill Russell, it's like a godlike experience because of what he's been through. When I was around Muhammad Ali, I was in awe. Like these guys today, they're great basketball players, great football players, and they're great. They're great. They're great. So when I'm around Bill Russell, when I was around Muhammad Ali, when I'm around Mr. Player, it's a surreal, like Charlie Shepard, Lee Elder. I got a chance to know, not well. I got a chance to play golf with him a couple times, and I was like, this is unbelievable for me. The stories they were telling me, and I read all the books about because I want to know. I want to know about my heroes. Because like I say, I ain't been through no real stuff in my life, but when you have living legends like that, and they're telling you stories about, because, can you imagine, like, wait, you can't go to the same bathroom as players. You can't eat at the same restaurants. You can't stay at the same hotels. Like, those guys who went through stuff like that, I want to know about them because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. They did all the heavy lifting. I've always been able to go to the same bathroom. I've always been able to stay at the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carltons. I've always been able to go to any restaurant I wanted to. But when you meet somebody who's been through some real stuff in their life, take the time to say thank you. One of my really good friends, Joe Morgan, when he passed away, it broke my heart. Joe was great. But he would always, when we play golf, he'd tell these stories, and he says he called his dad when he was gonna meet Jackie Robinson for the first time. He said, Dad, I'm gonna meet Jackie Robinson, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what to do. He says, just walk up to him and shake his hand and say, thank you, Mr. Robinson. He said, what? He says, sometimes a simple thank you is enough. And when Joe told me that story, anytime I meet some of these older guys who did a lot of him, I said, hey, thank you. But Joe Morgan's dad told him he's gonna meet the great Jackie Robinson. He says, just shake his hand and say, thank you. And when I meet these guys, Kareem, Bill Russell, guys like that, I always tell them, man, just thank you because they did so much for me. So just a simple thank you sometimes is enough.
But you left one guy out there, and that was Curt Flood. You never got to meet Curt.
And you know what? Number one, correct. And Curt Flood has never gotten the respect. Joe, thank you for bringing that up because I don't want to forget Mr. Flood. And I tell every baseball player, every jock to go back and learn about Curt Flood because if it wasn't for Curt Flood, we wouldn't have free agency.
Yeah.
So things like that. It's just crazy to think about. And he suffered, and he clearly died at a young age because of stress.
Well, there's no question about that.
Yes.
But we had a country music star named Charlie Pride. And the record company knew that he was such a great singer, but they were afraid to put him on stage because he was different. And the difference was his skin color. And so they promoted him for 2 months just on the radio, and no one knew he was black. And then they put him on stage, and he was still a star. All it was his talent. And that's, you want to grade somebody by what's inside them, not by their skin color. So
my grandmother is the greatest person in my life. And we talked about that all the time. When she was alive, she says, you know who Nelson Mandela is? I said, no, Granny, I don't. She says, you need to learn about Mandela. She says, I want you to learn about Dr. Martin Luther King. You need to know this because growing up in Alabama, I grew up about 20 minutes from Birmingham. So, she talked to me. She said, you know about the church bombing. I had to go learn that. She said, you know about Selma. Go learn about that. Go learn about the Montgomery boycott. So my grandmother, she said, hey, you're great at basketball, but you need to learn about the history and things like that. So she said, hey, go read about Nelson Mandela. And I'm like a teenager at the time, and nobody's really talking about apartheid till, later. She says, go learn about Dr. Martin Luther King. Go learn about people like that. And I think it's important to know that. But I said, especially for me being from Alabama, everybody talk about, I said, everybody know about Selma, everybody know about Montgomery. She said, no, you need to really learn about that. And so shout out to my grandmother, rest in peace, the greatest person ever in my life.
There's the other thing. You have to learn your history so that you don't make the same mistakes the second time. And I think through your life and through what you're trying to give back to society, I think you've been that role model that you said you didn't want to be, but you did want to be, and you did it, and you did it the right way. So I'm proud.
Hey, listen, I told you, Mike said it. Mike said I had a good. I mean, Joe, growing up in the projects with a single mom and 4 boys. My mom was a maid. My grandmother worked in a meat factory, and they were great women. 2 of my brothers have passed away, just me and 1 left. My mom, my grandmother, my dad. My dad recently passed away about 6 months ago. So, and I'm like, man, growing up in the project in this small town, we got a few thousand people, couple thousand, and growing up in the projects, and now doing your podcast, I can't believe my life. Growing up in that town, couple thousand people, living in the projects, going to Auburn, been in the NBA for 16 years, been on TV for 21 years. I said, man, what a great run. I mean, like every now and then, you always got crap to do. Well, that's a lie. You don't have a lot to do. I tell people that because they always got bullshit for you to do, cowboy. They're like, yo, man, can you come to this function? This one? No, man, I'm busy. And I'm lying. 'Cause I'm really just going to play golf and fish. But people, they're so disrespectful to your time. I said, yo, man, I'm doing plenty for charity. I don't have to meet random strangers and go to their stuff or because they never stop. They never stop. But I said, yo, man, I feel really good about what I'm doing for charity. I sleep really good at night, but I can't do everybody charity stuff. So I lied to him, said, I'm a little busy right now, but I'm either playing golf or fishing. I'm just lying.
Hey, Charles, you ever think about why you mentioned you lived a great life. You met so many fascinating people in your life, and you look around. Did you ever ask yourself the question, why you instead of somebody else?
First of all, you have to work hard at whatever you do. I put the time and effort in. I mean, clearly the big fella gave me some talent, but I worked hard, and the best thing probably ever happened to me was Moses Malone. Because, I was the number 5. So I had success in college. I was in college for 3 years. I led the SEC in rebounding all 3 years that I was there. So I would have success, but I weighed about 295 pounds. So I was the number 5 pick in the draft. And the Sixers took me, obviously. And I wasn't getting to play, Mike. And Moses, who's I called Dad, and he was the most influential person in my basketball career.
You need to tell Mike that Moses didn't go to college.
Yeah, he played here in St. Louis. He played for the Spirits of St. Louis. I know him well.
But the best thing about him, so I'm not getting to play my rookie year. And I asked Moses, can I come see you? Moses lived in the penthouse where I live. I was like on the 6th floor. He was on the deep end house. So I said, Moses, can I come and see you tonight? He said, sure, young fellow. I said, Moses, why am I not getting a play? He says, well, young fellow, you fat and you lazy. And I said, what? He said, you fat and you lazy. And then, I did like any man would do. I went downstairs and cried. And, but I did. I said, well, explain. He says, well, which part, the fat or the lazy part? He says, son, you got a lot of talent, but you're not in good shape and you can't work hard enough. And I said, well, what can I do? He says, you want to lose weight, I'll help you. So he said to me, and this is one of the greatest players already. He says, let's lose 10 pounds. He said, I'll meet you before practice and I'll meet you after practice. So he said, let's lose 10 pounds. So I get to 290. And then I can feel my endurance picking up. He says, well, let's get to 280. I'm like, oh shit, I'm starting to, work hard now. He gets me to 270. Now I'm starting. He gets me 260, gets me all the way to 250. So I lost 50 pounds because of Moses. I actually got to 240 at one point. But I said, Moses, I don't feel strong and I don't have great energy. He said, well, let's go back to 250. He said, 250 is your playing weight. But this guy, it was a lot of hard work, but it changed the entire dynamic of my career because I've seen guys eat their way out of the NBA. So, Mike, I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into my craft. But if it weren't for Moses, taking me under his wing, because nobody's successful on their own right. There's a lot of people around you who help you be successful. But Moses, man, when he made me lose those 50 pounds, the rest is history. I became a great player after that. But nobody is successful without working hard.
What impact did Dr. J have on your career?
Dr. J taught me how to dress. He taught me how to be professional. He said, Charles, and let me tell you something, I almost killed him one day. I got to be honest with you. So my first year, I'm still dressing like a punk in college, warm-up suits everywhere. And Dr. J was always dressed fantastic. So he says, hey, what are you doing today? I said, I got no plans. Takes me shopping. We go to Boyd's store, which is like one of the biggest clothing stores in Philadelphia. He says, he needs 10 suits and 5 sports coats and pants. He do? Like, he do. He says, this is professional basketball. This ain't college basketball where y'all get off the plane. We go through the airports. Because that time we're flying commercial. I think my first 3 years in NBA, we flew commercial. He's like, you got to dress like a professional. And okay. And then the bill comes. It was $32,000. I'll never forget it, Mike. And, I guarantee you there's nobody in my household ever made $32,000 a year. I spent it in one afternoon. I remember calling my agent. I said, yo, man, I need some money. He said, for what? He said, you got your allowance? He said, I said, no, my allowance ain't going to get this done. This is 4 allowances at the time. He says, Dr. J got on my ass about how I dress. He says, he told me I'm a professional now. And I got started. He said, Dr. J's right. He said, I'll send you the money tomorrow. So he taught me how to be a professional. He taught me how to handle my money, told me how to save my money. He says, another perfect example. He says, young fella, I noticed something about you. I said, what is it? He said, how many cars you got? I said, I got like 6. He says, well, how many of those can you drive at a time? He says, what do you mean? He said, well, how many can you physically drive? I said, 1. He says, well, take those other damn cars back. I said, what do you mean? He says, son, let me tell you something. No matter how great a basketball player you is, this money ain't gonna last you forever unless you save it. He said, Charles, stop trying to impress other people. And this is what I tell the young kids today. He said, yo, man, you don't need 6 expensive cars. He said, you can have 1 expensive car, but you don't need 6. He says, everybody already know who you are. He said, when you buy an expensive car, you're trying to impress other people. You don't have to do that. You're already impressive. You're Charles Barkley, and everybody knows it. He said, you pull up in a Kia, everybody knows that's Charles Barkley right there. But when you go out and waste all that money, two things going to happen. You're going to be broke at some point. There's a reason 75% of professional athletes go broke. They spend way too much money. He says, and Herm Edwards always said it, you don't need but one house, you don't need but one car. He said, when you got a bunch of houses and a bunch of cars, you're going to go broke. I love me some Herm Edwards when I hear him say that. But Doc taught me that back in 1984, 85. He says, son, you don't need all those cars. You don't have to impress everybody. Everybody already know who you are. So that's how Doc helped me the most.
That's so neat, and it's a great story for everybody. It's a great story for everybody in every sport and every aspect of life too. You just some of the simplest things in life, it makes it work better, and I get the feeling that you should be giving this speech from a pedestal like the floor of Congress, or maybe from the office of the presidency, because you have a lot more intelligence than those guys do.
Hey, let me tell you something. These politicians, Democrats and Republicans, and they both are awful. They're both running our country. And I tell people, we're just fools in a pond game. Like, they don't care. I think it has nothing to do with being a Democrat or Republican. They're both awful, awful. And it's really unfortunate we're so stupid as people. I said, all they really do is make us fight with each other. They do nothing for us but make us like, I got to make this group hate that group. I got to make this group hate that group. I'm like, well, no, not really. Y'all really supposed to be taking care of us. And you can't make everybody happy, but you don't have to make people fight with each other. And that's all they're doing right now. And it's really sad because I tell people, I'm not going to get on TV or on your podcast like I give a rat's ass who the president is.
Yeah.
I said, but you know what I believe in? I believe in decency. I really believe in decency. Like, it was so funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and this guy says to me, he said, man, you the driver who was driving me back and forth to Subway, to the commercial shit. He said, man, you're a really nice, down-to-earth guy. I said, man, I learned a long time ago. My mom and grandmother and, Dr. J. Asher said to me, just don't be an asshole. Hey, that's it. Hey, we all got issues. We can all, but just don't be an asshole. And I try to live my life like that. I don't mind disagreeing with people. I try not to. Like, okay, we just disagree. I'm not mad. We disagree.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to be an asshole ever, period.
Yeah. All the years I worked in the big leagues, whenever I'd go to San Diego, and you touched on this earlier about the veterans. The Navy and the Marine Corps would bring platoons of sailors and Marines to the game, and they'd sit in the upper deck. And it's just Sunday afternoon. And about the third inning, they'd play Anchors Away, and those sailors would get up and cheer like little kids. And the next inning, they'd play the Marines hymn, but the Marines would stand at attention and sing the Marines hymn to the end. And at the very end, they'd all go, hoorah, and you could feel a rush of energy go through the stadium. And you have to realize that we are all in this country and have the entertainment we have because of those people, because of the veterans who have put their life on the line and signed a contract that they would give their life for all of us. And I tell people all the time, Tony Blair was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, and he said, he was asked by a member of his parliament, and he said, why do you always take up for the Americans? And he said, well, there's two main reasons. One is you have to look at how many people are trying to get into a country and how many people are trying to get out. And then you have to look at only two people ever died for you, Jesus Christ and the American GI. One died for your soul and the other died for your freedom. And no truer statement's ever been made. And so we owe all of our things that we have attained in life. And you said you have to have help from somebody. Well, we've had help from the greatest generations ever by keeping us free. And we're messing it up. Ted Turner once said about baseball, he says, we got the greatest monopoly in the world. We're messing it up. We've got the greatest country in the world and we're messing it up. We got to put our foot down and straighten this thing out. And we have to do it from the common people because our leaders aren't doing it.
Yeah. First of all, it's really sad because uh, these this is, and I tell people, and Cowboy, you've been around the world, Mike. I don't know your history, man. I've been around the world. This stupid ball is taking me everywhere. And let me tell you something. If you go live in those other countries, you are racing to get back to the United States. As I tell people, you can say what you want to about America, but man, y'all, people have zero idea how good we got it. Like, they kill you for voicing your opinion in other countries. You can say what the hell you want to in America and nothing happened to you.
Hey, Charles, you can even say it, get fired, and they still pay you.
Yeah. Yes. But I tell people, I say, yo, man, we got to take our country back. We got to say, hey, no, you guys, no. There's two greater things we got going. Y'all are messing it up. Y'all are messing this thing up. This is the greatest place in the world. I said, if we just got to draw a line and say, hey, we had enough. We're starting over with this political thing. We're gonna put term limits in there, and that to me would be a great place to start. Hey, how about term limits? Because these people have been in there forever, and like, come on, nobody keeps any other than Cowboy Joe. Nobody keeps a job forever.
Hey, Charles, for you mentioned 21 years in TV, 16 years as a player. So basketball has been part of your life. What's the most fun thing you still do when it comes to being involved in TV?
The game. Ain't nothing like the game.
But there's some games you'll admit, man, I don't even know why we have this one on.
Oh, yeah, I hate bad games. I hate bad games. But, Mike, let me tell you something. There's something that can happen. I see something that's going to happen. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was down, I was watching the Stanley Cup. I wasn't at that game. I didn't go to game 6. But to see that joy when those young kids won the Stanley Cup, and the one old guy who's been in the league for like 15 years and finally won the Stanley Cup, like, that's what sports do for us. Those kids in Colorado, they were so excited. Sports, can I bring that? Like, watching Ohtani pitch yesterday. Like, watch Aaron Judge hit another home run. Like, man, that is so awesome to see. And, like, if you're having a bad day and your team is doing good, that's what sports do. Like, if you're having issues at work, something wrong with your kids or something like that, like, sports are so fun to be. They bring you so much joy, and they bring you pain at times. But when I'm watching the finals, watching Steph Curry do his thing, that was like, I'm watching one of the greatest basketball players ever do his thing. That's cool for me. So when I go to work, we get 2 games a night. There's a chance I'm going to see something great. There's a chance. So I look forward to going to work. First of all, it's the stupidest thing in the world. They're paying me to watch basketball. I mean, it's the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, I'm like, wait, I'm gonna watch anyway, but y'all gonna pay me to watch? So, you said all the years. I mean, man, basketball been part of my life since I was probably 16. So it's all I know in life. It's giving me the greatest life I can. People always say, I ain't gonna lie to you. People say, what would you do if you wasn't playing basketball? I'm like, I don't even know. I have zero idea. And but now I'm going on between TV and NBA, it's 37 years. That's crazy. The NBA has been part of my life for 37 years.
And you had fun every day of it.
Yo, man, not a lot of stress out here.
Well, I don't know about that now. I saw you in that commercial with those kids where they said you were famous. And
hey,
I was a basketball player. No, you were famous for being a bad golfer. Look at this swing on the computer. and then they just beat up on you, and you go over there and have to look up your basketball career to show them, and that one of them girl comes over and says, It'll be all right, Charles.
There's nothing better than making commercials with kids. This was a great year for me making commercials for kids. When the little girl picks me in the basketball game, and then when you talk about AT&T, man, those kids. First of all, they got so much energy, and they're so much fun to be around. This was a fun year for me to do kid commercials.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, how's the golf game?
Mike, I'm gonna tell you something, man. I'm playing great right now. I have put so much time and effort. I got to give a shout out to my coach Stan Utley. Mike, I've been to him.
The Lewis guy. Stan went to University of Missouri. Yeah.
Yes. Stan saved my life and changed my life because, I used to be a good player, Mike. And then I started taking lessons from every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the world. And my brain went haywire for 25 years. I was standing on the ball. I was scared to death. I had like 12 guys talking to me at the same time. I had no idea who I was listening to. And all of a sudden, I'm terrified. And then I met Stan at Tom Lehman's golf tournament about 3 years ago. And he says, Charles, can I work with you? Because, he worked with some of the best players in the world. He's the best short game teacher in the world. I said, Stan, I'll work with everybody. I don't even play anymore unless it's a charity event for a friend. He says, well, give me a chance then. And I said, Stan, I don't know if I have the energy to work that hard. He said, just give me 2 days. And Mike, he says, well, tell me what happened. I said, man, I was a good player. I want to get better. So I just started taking lessons from everybody. He says, when you stand over the ball, what are you thinking about? I said, well, I got like 10 guys talking to me. And I ain't gonna lie. He says, well, stand over the ball and close your eyes. I said, what? He just close your eyes and listen to me. He said, I just want you to hear my voice. He said, I need you to really concentrate and just listen to my voice. And after 2 days, he says, now, this is going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of effort on your part. He said, I want you to go to range every day for at least an hour and just think about what I'm telling you, just what I'm telling you. And you're going to hit some good shots, you're going to hit some bad shots. Good shots, bad shots. But he says, you watch golf on TV, right? I said, yeah. He said, do those guys hit bad shots? I said, yeah. He says, well, why the hell you think you can't hit bad shots? And I said, okay, Stan, I feel what you're cooking with right now. I feel it. And Mike, let me tell you something. It took a couple of years, but I'm probably playing better than I ever played. And I'm going to get better because right now I'm practicing every day for at least 4 or 5 hours. And man, I got that big tournament in Lake Tahoe next week. So check it out on NBC next week, brother. See how I'm playing.
I'm looking forward to it. I know you and I share a good friend, Roy Green, that always talks about it.
We're not friends, man. He's my he's my arch enemy.
I can roll that one out and get a reaction.
Let me tell you something. He is my arch enemy. Roy is probably my best friend. I play golf with him every day when I'm in Arizona. We fight every single day on the golf course. He is my arch rival. He's my arch enemy. But he's one of my best friends. He's one of the best people I know. But man, make no doubt about it. He's my arch rival and my arch enemy.
See, y'all talk a lot of shit out there.
Oh, no question.
I've heard. He's told me that.
Hey, listen. First of all, he got a friend, his boy named Willard.
Willard Harold's a good friend of mine. Yeah, he's here in St. Louis. We played about 2 weeks ago.
So him and Wu, as he called him Wu, they are my arch rivals.
Tell the story about when you first met Wu and he had to pull out his phone to show that he actually played in the NFL.
First of all, there is some truth to that. Him and Roy are the only two people carry old highlights of them around on their phone to show them people. I was like, we were at Morton's one night. We always go to Morton's. You can smoke cigars on the patio. And I said, man, what are you doing? He's like, dude, you have to have highlights of yourself on your damn phone. But you know what? You can't do nothing but laugh. You can't do nothing but laugh because Wu is such a good dude. And every time he comes to Arizona, we have a couple of days of golf and fun and shenanigans. But man, me, him, and Roy together, it's just a lot of shit talking and good and mediocre golf at best.
I don't know whether you saw Roy Green as a player when he played in the NFL. Maybe you did because he was in Philadelphia right at the end. But I always tell people this: had Roy Green played on the Rams, the greatest show on turf, the greatest offense in the history of the game, Roy Green would have set records that would have never been thought of. He would have caught 2,000 yards in passes easy. There was nothing he couldn't do on the football field.
Well, you know what's amazing? So, see, I'm so old. I tell people, when you meet these kids, they think there's always been basketball on like every damn night of the week. I say, no, man, it ain't like it is now. You go get a game. First of all, they didn't even have ESPN when I was young. So, you think, so Mike, I'm so old. You think about this. The NBA finals were tape delayed. That's how old I am. But
you're forgetting one thing, that when the Globetrotters were around, the Globetrotters were usually the show.
we couldn't afford to go to. Hey, I'm from a small town in Alabama. You think we can afford to go to these damn Globetrotters, Cowboy?
Well, the Globetrotters were the show, and the NBA was played before the Globetrotters performed.
Well, so we got one basketball game a week, so we didn't have no pro teams in Alabama. So we got one pro game a week in basketball and one pro game a week in football. And in basketball, it was always going to be the Lakers, Celtics, or the 76ers. It was going to be one of those three teams against each other most of the time. But it was always going to have one of the big three, we call it. And that was every Sunday afternoon. But in football, we got one game a week. It was always going to be the New York Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, Washington Redskins. Those were the three biggest teams back then. And for some reason, they were always beating the hell out of the St. Louis Cardinals.
I can attest to that. You're right.
I said half the time it was Cowboys, Redskins, Giants, Eagles. It was always the NFC back then. But on the off, when they weren't playing each other, one of them was beating the hell out of the St. Louis Cardinals. So I tell you what's funny about that. Go 30 years, 20 some years later, like, Roy Green. Damn, I heard that name somewhere before. Because he was putting up good numbers too. They just stuck out the team.
You're right.
And I'm like, that can't be the same damn Roy Green. And we started talking. I said, yo, man, there was a great player from the St. Louis Cardinals back in when I was younger. Like I said, we got one game a week, and it was, y'all wasn't no good, but you were doing your thing, brother. He said, that's me. I said, damn. And next thing I know, we're best friends. And like I say, I love me some Roy Green, man. He's one of my favorite people in the world. Like I say, we play golf. Because like I say, I travel a couple days a week during basketball season, but I'm at home 5 days a week most of the time. And I play golf with him 4 of those days.
And do you have?
Let me tell you something. There's so much trash talking going on.
Well, does he pull out his phone and show his video between arguments?
No, that's only at dinner, Cowboy. We never at dinner. Hey, no, we don't allow. Hey, you don't show old videotapes when you're playing golf. But at dinner, him and Wu are definitely gonna break out the old beat. Oh, it's hilarious too.
Yeah. You know, you were on the NBA channel when Mark Eaton passed away, because he had just gone to the game where I set the record for most games umpired, and I know he was a friend of yours, and when you took the time to say that on there, I was really touched by it. And I know his family was, but you go back to all those times that you played against him, and he was an awesome player. But it was funny because I met him through Larry Ziegler, and he came to the event and everybody was so shocked because of how tall he was. And he was one of the most gracious people at the event. And he spoke to everybody. He took pictures with everybody. In fact, I got a picture behind me that they took of all 130 tickets that I had to buy, and he's standing in the very back, and he's still head and shoulders of everybody. So, but it was a sad day for all of us. And I remember when you brought it up on your broadcast. And
Yeah. First of all, I think you're lying about paying for all 130 tickets. I know damn well you didn't pay for them all. You
I
lying.
did. I did.
You did?
The White Sox gave me 16, but I paid for the rest of them.
No, okay. So you know what was really Mark? We just lost another gentle giant, Bob Lanier, like a couple of weeks ago. Bob and Mark, we throw around the term gentle giant not many times, because most people that big are gruff and everything. But Mark and Bob were two of the nicest guys I've ever met. I got to spend a lot of time with Bob when he moved to Phoenix for as long as I can remember. But me and Mark just hit it off good, and me and Carl Malone been great friends, and John Stockton. But when he was sending me pictures from your event, and then to pass away right after that, I'm glad that he got to enjoy some time with you at that event before he passed away, because what a good dude, man. What a really good dude.
Hey, Charles, you played in a very good era, great players, and every era has great players. And I know you've always talked about Kevin McHale being the best player you ever played against. Who was the most fearless guy you ever played against? I mean, a guy that you realize I'm gonna have to put some work in tonight.
Birds like that. A guy who's like, oh, I got, how we call it good night's sleep, guys. Yeah, I need to get a good night's sleep before this guy. I mean, some guys you're like, oh, we can start drinking all night. We're good. You can't play dead, But Bird was like that. I mean, obviously, Kevin McHale, to me, is the best player I played against. He was just unstoppable, and he gave me fits on the other end. I'm gonna say Michael, but I didn't guard Michael, but that was a scary proposition playing against the Bulls, because that man, he was gonna bring it. Akeem Olajuwon, I didn't guard him personally, but I played him in 2 back-to-back 7-game series. Actually, the 2 years they won the championship, we lost to them in 7 games, and we were the best team, and they were the best team. But watching that guy play in person and on tape for 7 games in a row, 2 years in a row, was like, damn, I'm really good at basketball. That dude's really good at basketball too. But man, Gary Payton is one of my all-time favorites. Karl Malone, but Patrick Ewing. It's so many great, great players during our time, and I was blessed. But the 2 guys I always tell people we got to always admire, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Those 2 guys saved the NBA. In my opinion, they're the 2 most important people in NBA history, because if you go back, people look at all this money that these guys are making today. It's because of Bird and Magic, because when I got to the NBA in 1984, the average salary was $250,000. Now the average salary is like $10 million. Because before Bird and Magic came along, it was too black, too ghetto, too many guys who did drugs. It was tape delayed and things like that. That all changed when Magic and Bird came to the NBA. And I make sure I tell those guys every time I see them, thank you. Thank you. And like Matt, and obviously Michael took it to another level. And all these guys out here selling sneakers, making hundreds of millions of dollars now, they owe all that to Michael. All these guys making commercials like myself and everything, they owe all to Michael. Because you think about this, nobody was selling sneakers, nobody had a shoe deal, and nobody was doing commercials. That's all because of Michael. That's why I always tell people, Magic and Larry, we owe them for starting the NBA, just like Jack, Gary and Arnold in golf, and then Tiger took it to a whole nother level. Magic and Bird got this thing turned around, and obviously Michael took it to another level. But the reason all of us do commercials and got shoe deals with Nike and all these other companies is because of Michael. So we owe him a great deal of gratitude and thank you also.
You know, Mike, I sent Charles a text one time. We were in the instant replay, and when you're in replay, there's two crews there, and we're all about finished for their shifts, and we go to this little bar downtown New York, and Charles is on TV, and I think you were doing a college game or something anyway. So I sent him a text while he's on the air, and I said, Charles, I got a bet with these two other umpires. We picked our all-time best starting five in the NBA. And I said, and Mark Ripperger picked this, and Will Little picked this, and I picked this. And of course, my team was older than dirt. I picked Oscar and Jerry West, and I picked Wilt Chamberlain and Rick Barry, and I don't even remember who the other four was. Anyway, so I said, because you didn't make any of these lists, Charles, we figured you should be the judge as to who picked the best team. And he wrote me back while he was on the air. And I'm getting this text message, and the other umpires, they are howling with laughter. And he wrote me back. He said, y'all are all wrong. It was Kareem, Wilt, Russell, I think you said Oscar, and Michael.
I did.
And I said, I wrote back and says, Mark said your team was too slow. He said, you might be able to outrun all these guys. Hey, I didn't have the heart to tell him that Wilt could probably outrun everybody on the whole list.
Hey, Charles, what kind of relationship did you have with officials? I know you got rung up a few times on the technical side, and everybody remembers your relationship with Dick Pavetta. But what kind of relationship did you have with officials overall? And Joe, what kind of player do you think he'd be if he was in Major League Baseball?
Well, you asking me or Charles?
I mean, no, listen, let me tell you something. I get on with the officials actually really, really good. Do we have our disputes? Yeah. The only time I ever had an issue, there was a guy named Mike Mathis. He wouldn't let it go from game to game. I got rung up by Steve Jabby. It's over with. Joey Crawford, probably my favorite. Got great friends to this day I play golf with, Derek Stafford. He's giving me a tech. It's an emotional game. We all get heated. We're all trying to be successful. We got no idea they got no idea what I got going on in my life. I might not even be mad about something that happened in a basketball game. I might be having some stuff going on, and then I was playing bad, and I took it out on the officials. But the only guy I ever had a real issue with was Mike Mathis because we got into it one time, and he would never let it go. But most of these guys, I tell you what's really interesting for me. I like replay, but I think it's these officials, man, they deserve probably more credit than they probably deserve more credit because some of these calls, without instant replay, man, ain't no way you could get that call right or wrong in real time. And now, now everybody's an expert because of instant replay. Hey, these guys are doing the best they can. I don't think any official goes into a game saying, I want to ring somebody up. But like I say, hey, it's an emotional game. You get mad at times. And there's times that I got tossed that I probably deserved it. Probably a couple times I didn't deserve it. But I think for the most part, guys go out there cause listen, I don't think they really want to be part of the game.
You know, there's a story that Jerry Crawford, Joey's brother, told me. He said that you walked up behind Joey when he was officiating because Joey's dad was a National League umpire and Joey's brother, Jerry, was a National League umpire. He worked with me. And so Jerry called me and told me this story. He said, you know what Charles Barkley did the other day? And I said, no. He says, he walked up behind Joey and he said, how does it feel to be the worst official in your family? and Joey admitted that you did that. And so I asked him, well, what'd you do? Did you give him a technical foul? He said, no, I laughed like hell.
Hey, Cowboy, I used to call him. I said, hey, number 3. Hey, number 3. He said, Chuck, you're the third best official in your damn family, number 3. We would laugh about it. I said, we would just laugh about it.
Yeah. But he was and he was a great basketball official. I mean, he
was.
He came up in like 79. I think he came up before you did.
Oh, I don't know, but like he was there my entire career. Great guy too. Great guy.
Yeah, good official, and it's one of those things, Mike. You were talking about how would he be in our game? You know what? It's really funny. The great players in every game have their little tiffs and little spats with officials here and there, but for the most part, I think Charles is right. You know, this the officials is there to make it fair for everybody. And I remember I kicked out a manager one time, and he came out of the dugout and he said, "You just did that so everybody know you're here." I said, "I've been here 40 years. Everybody knew I was here when I walked out here. What are you talking about?"
Hey, Charles, quick question for me. The game, you like the direction, and how much of an impact has Steph Curry had on the future of the game? Because now kids who aren't 6'8" and can dunk can now look at a guy like Curry and watch how fundamentally sound he is and how he's extended the range of a jump shooter unlike anything we've ever seen. How much of an impact has he had on the game, and where do you see the game headed?
I'm not happy with the direction the game is going. What I mean by that is, first of all, I'm a Steph Curry guy. I love Steph Curry, but you shouldn't be shooting all those threes unless you're Steph Curry. The problem we got, we got Tom, Dick, and Harry shooting threes like they Steph Curry. That's my only problem. Like, if Jake, it should be a rule. You should have to shoot a good percentage to shoot a bunch of threes. And if you're not shooting a good percentage, how about this? Let's don't shoot all those threes. So now the game is like, hey, we're just going to jack up a bunch of threes. I'm like, well, that's a good strategy if they're going in. But what if they're not going in? So there's a middle ground. We haven't found that yet, because you watch the NBA now, it's like every team comes out, we're just going to shoot all threes. They go in, we're going to win. If they don't go in, we're going to lose. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a good damn strategy to me.
Well, do you think coaching has something to do with it?
Yeah, I think the coaches, they coach. That's what I'm saying. The coaches got to get better. But Mike, also, one thing that bothers me the most, we got 7-foot guys shooting threes now. And the thing that's crazy about that is they're the only 7-footer out there. I'm like, well, if everybody else is 6'5", and you're 7 feet tall, why would you shoot threes? You're taller than everybody. It's like Joel Embiid got mad at me and Shaq. We're like, why does you keep shooting threes? He's the biggest guy on the court. And he got mad. And then I guess somebody says, those guys probably got a point. Maybe you should go down in the paint and dominate. and let me tell you something. He probably should have won MVP this year. He took less threes than he had in the last 5 years. I'm like, Joel, we're not trying to be old guys, get off my lawn on television. You're the best big man in the game. You're 7'2". They're putting a 6'7" guy on you. Every time you shoot a three, he's like, oh, thank God he didn't go in the post. He's so much bigger than me. So this year, I guess somebody got in his ear and said, yo, man, take your big ass down to the post. And he dominated. Like I say, probably should have won MVP, came in a close second. But, like, that's probably my biggest problem, Mike. Like, man, if you're 7 feet tall, you shouldn't be shooting threes. But Steph is a great player. He's a great dude. But there should be a rule. Everybody can't shoot threes.
When you were coming up, where was Maravich?
I missed him. Yeah, but I tell you what, I met him one time and it was really cool. It was really cool. And you know what's really amazing? When they picked the top 50 players of all time, he was actually the only one who had passed away at the time, so it was pretty surreal. His kids were at the event, but that was like amazing that only one guy in the top 50 all time had passed away, and obviously we just did the 75, and we've lost a lot more. But it was really interesting, and that when we had our first picking the 50 best, Pete was the only man who had passed away. Rest in peace, Pete.
Yeah, when I was in high school, the basketball coach sent me to the camp at Bowie's Creek, where Campbell College is. He sent me to the basketball camp, and so Pete Maravich was there, and he was in college, and he was out there on the floor, and Press Maravich's dad was there, and they said, "Okay." They sent one of the young kids out, see if you can take the ball away from Pete. And he'd bounce it over their head. He'd throw it through their legs and keep dribbling. He'd bounce it behind his back. It was amazing how he handled the ball. So they sent the second kid out there, and then they sent me out there. Said, see if you can take the ball away from him. Do anything you want to take the ball. So I just tackled him. I ran laps the rest of the day.
Hey, fellas, we're running out of time here. Charles, man, this has been a true blast to have a chance to visit with you and you being part of what we do with the podcast. We can't thank you enough, my friend. It's been great.
Well, let me just say this, Mike. Number one, it's a pleasure to meet you. Me and Cowboy have been together 100 years. He had an amazing journey. I've had an amazing journey. And like I say, man, when he called, I'm like, hell yeah. I can't believe he got a podcast. I mean, think about it. When he probably started, I guarantee he had like that string and that cup for communication.
It's not much better. It's not much better. Trust me. It's not much better.
Hey, listen, I guarantee you he ain't got no damn iPhone. I'm just pulling this out of my ass right now. There's no doubt in my mind Cowboy got a flip phone.
You're right, I do.
Hey man, hey Cowboy, you take care of yourself. Mike, you have a great day, man. Y'all be safe, and thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you, man. I'll say hey to Woo. I'm gonna give him a call here in just.
Oh, please do.
I can tell he was pouring it on him.
Oh, please do.
Hey, thanks again, man. We appreciate you.
All right,
Thank you, bro.
All right. For Charles Barkley, he's Joe West. I'm Mike Claiborne. We thank you for tuning in another edition of 5460, the Joe West podcast. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
My baby took me to the ballpark to see a baseball game. Lord, it had to be at least 99 in the shade. I was stealing a glance at some tight short pants just as I turned my head. My baby grabbed me by the arm and this is what she said. If you cheat on me, you'll be out at home. If I catch you playing the field, you're gonna be long gone. You better play it safe and don't do me wrong. 'Cause if you cheat on me, you'll be out at home.
You've been listening to 5460, the Joe West podcast, here on the Podcast Heat Network. Make sure to subscribe and don't miss an episode each and every Monday. We'll talk to you next week.
She's checking all the signs while I'm enjoying two of the great American pastimes. It's fouling up my nerve watching all these curves, remembering what she said to me. And if I get caught looking, it's gonna be strike three. If you cheat on me, you'll be out at home. If I catch you playing the field, you're gonna be long gone. You better play it safe and don't do me wrong. 'Cause if you cheat on me, well, you'll be out at home. If you cheat on me, you'll be out at home. If I catch you playing the field, you're gonna be long gone. You better play it safe and don't do me wrong. 'cause if you cheat on me, well, you'll be out at home. If you cheat on me, you'll be out at home.